Thanks, Mick. It is a Monday morning. That means it's time to get our head on straight. At least the attempt of that. Lauren Rich joins us with Rich Consulting this morning. Glad to have you here, Lauren. How are you? How was your weekend?
I'm good. It was good. How's yours?
It was good. I could have
Good.
slept more on the weekend.
Agreed.
Which is kind of the topic of the day today. And you're a licensed therapist. And so you deal with trauma. You deal with people who can't sleep at night. You
That's
deal
right,
with
including
all
myself.
kinds
Yeah,
of
I'm
things.
not exempt from that.
Right. But you know what to do. There are things you can do to help you go to sleep.
There are lots of good things to do, and we have a lot of information to cover, so we're going to do that very swiftly today. So,
All right. Well, let me ask you, how many people are suffering from insomnia, and exactly what is it? Is it just a little trouble going to sleep, or is it,
So insomnia is classified as a hard time falling asleep, staying asleep, having a broken or intermittent sleep pattern, which means 1 or 2 hours and then I'm awake, 1 or 2 hours and then I'm awake. And the short answer is millions of Americans, and I think over 50% report insomnia at some point in time during their lifetime.
right? So it's very common.
Oh, very.
But
very.
some people, though, are more chronic. They
Yes.
stay in this state. And
For
sometimes-
years.
Yeah, for years and
Yes.
years, and it plays a toll on your body, doesn't it?
Sure, everything does.
What does it do to you?
So, in short, let's just talk about the impact of insomnia. So, anyone can function on little sleep, but no one can function on no sleep. So, in the first day or two, when you're maybe running on 6 hours or less, you're starting to feel the impact. You may not feel well, you're taking in extra caffeine, all those kinds of things. No sleep by day 3, total sleep deprivation of probably under 2 hours, I would say. We're talking hallucinations, physical or tactile, audio, visual, all of those kinds of things.
Bad decisions?
Oh man, very bad decisions. And people who have been through military courses and who have been out in the woods in specific schools and things like that, sleep deprivation is a big part of that because they want to challenge your cognitions when you're at day 3. What kind of decisions can you make on no sleep at all? By day 4, people start dying by day 4 with
Really?
no sleep. Yeah,
So you start dying at day 4?
pretty much. I mean, your
Wow.
body starts to shut down.
I mean, it's not like you just die like from that. You usually have some kind of heart attack or stroke.
Yes,
or,
it would induce something
Right,
else.
right.
Yes, absolutely.
Wow, I had no
Yes.
idea. Now I know I feel better when I sleep. You know, get a good solid night's sleep, and I have the Pillow app on my phone for my Apple Watch, so I can kind of. Great, it's not exactly, obviously 100%, but it does help you.
It
kind of
does.
See your sleep.
It helps
cycles.
monitor, helps you see your sleep cycle. The Fitbit would do the same thing, the Apple products, whatever that would be. So let's just talk good sleep habits. So my guys know to never come in and complain about not sleeping well if they are in bed with a cup of coffee or a Dr. Pepper.
I understand
Okay?
that. You
So
can't have it after a certain time.
you
Yes,
have
I
to
can.
understand that the half-life of caffeine is approximately 5 to 6 hours. What that means is that your body can only eliminate half of the caffeine in that drink in 5 or 6 hours. So if your last Coke or full cup of coffee is at 7 o'clock and you lay down by midnight, you still have half of the caffeine left from the 7 o'clock drink. Okay?
Wow.
So that's why I say drink it in the morning. If you're going to drink it in the morning. It's a great tool. It's a wonderful thing to use when
But
we need to.
sometimes you need it in the afternoon for that afternoon kick. That
Sometimes
push.
you do, but sometimes you can also get your butt up from your desk and go for a quick walk. You can go to the restroom. You can drink some water. You can have something other than
True,
caffeine. Fresh fruit. All of those things are
It is
good.
kind of the quick and easy way to handle it.
It is the lazy way to handle it.
Well, thanks. Okay, I'll accept that.
It is. It's the lazy way. And I'm not
Well, you're
beating up
right.
on
You're-
people because
No.
I do that too.
It's easy.
But it's a short-term Band-Aid, right? Because I get that little oomph at 2 o'clock. You know, Sonic has happy hour from 2 to 4 for a particular reason, because they know that people are
Yeah,
dragging
kick.
by that point. Yes.
I
So
do.
you can go, you get your half price whatever, and you get a little bounce back from it, and you can make it through the rest of the day. The problem is if you drink it at 2 o'clock, it's still with you by 7 o'clock. If you lay down
Right.
at 8:30 or 9, we're still not even 100% way through.
Right.
So good sleep habits. So obviously diet and exercise. Caffeine needs to stop by noon at the very latest. We need to not have any type of technology in the bedroom. No televisions, preferably no cell phones, no computers. Don't shake your head.
What in the heck you gonna do in there?
Well, I could think of a couple things, but one would be sleep.
Well, I guess
And
so. But
and you know, you have
that's
to
where I Netflix
realize
and chill though.
you have to realize that there is so much stimulation from technology that your brain has to have the time to calm down. So my recommendation is always 30 minutes or more before bedtime. You turn off the phone. Your kids especially don't need to be going to bed with a cell phone in their room. There is
Right.
no need for that, ever. And
So-
adults are the same.
A lot of the insomnia we're experiencing as a society, we're kind of bringing on
Self-induced.
ourselves. Right?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Watching
So
caffeine. What besides caffeine? What's a stimulant that you should stay away from? I've heard
sugar in general.
That, yeah, right. Chocolate. I've heard.
Mhm.
Which now, come on. To me, a chocolate cupcake before bedtime seems like a heavenly place to be.
I'm sure it is
But
for a
it might
short
make me
time.
lay there awake though.
Yes, yes, exactly. Any type of sugar, you know, your body has to have time to process those things.
Well,
And
can't it do it while I'm asleep?
not quick enough. Not quick enough for you to fall asleep.
I guess so.
So ease up on the caffeine. Let's talk about the energy drinks. So for the veteran population, they'll remember that in the early part of the war, the military was just pushing pallets and pallets of Monster, Red Bull, all kinds of stuff. And they would down 3 or 4 at a time, easy, no
Right.
problem. And so then you come home and you have this really bad habit of drinking energy drinks all the time. Those are bad for a couple of reasons. One is just because your body doesn't need them, okay? The second is because they jack you up and then you have a hard time coming down. The crash is much harder than people anticipate. It also makes insomnia worse, and it actually makes anxiety worse. And people will tell you that. They'll tell you, if I haven't had one or if I'm coming down from that, I can feel the anxiousness in my body.
Right. Now, what if you wanted to have one in the morning to replace coffee?
You can
Totally
do that.
Different thing.
You could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as you're not having, you know, more than 1 to 2 a day at most, I would say.
I know people that have 5 or more a day.
Yes, and that really is kind of scary to think about what that does to your insides, and the fact that your body has to have time to process those things. And so even if you're drinking them at 8 o'clock in the morning, by the time you lay down at 10 o'clock at night, it's not going to be what it could be. And that's our whole goal, is to make things better. So caffeine, energy drinks, technology, you've got to monitor all of those, and you need to cut back as best possible. So that's our first thing, is good habits. Our second thing is, let's say you're somebody who's been using those for a long time. Go for a couple of weeks, 3 to 4 weeks without them. And if you are still having problems, consider a sleep study, because we cannot say that insomnia is a clinical part of a diagnosis, a mental health diagnosis, if we cannot rule out that it has a physiological cause. And what I mean by that is apneas, whether it's central apnea or obstructive apnea or any type of restless leg syndrome. All of those take a sleep study to diagnose. So if you're one who has a broken or intermittent pattern, if you snore heavily, if you stop breathing, if you're heavily dependent upon caffeine the following day, you're constantly fatigued, you do not get restorative sleep, you would really benefit from a sleep study. And all that it is just an analysis of how often you stop breathing, or what your sleep pattern is, and how much you're able to hit REM sleep cycle. Okay? So
How many times should you hit it during a night?
oh gosh, I don't know. You'd have to ask a specialist. And it would depend on the person.
Because I kind of look through my watch. Sometimes when I feel really rested, I've had 6 or 8. And I had one the other day. It lasted almost a whole hour. I was like,
Wow.
wow. I know. I was
Yeah.
like, yeah. I woke up. I felt like Superman.
Yes,
And then I had coffee, and then I felt like 2 Supermen.
yes, and so the kicker for the obstructive side is that a lot of people develop obstructive sleep apnea because of a weight problem. Again, sugar, caffeine, unhealthy diet. And so that's almost a self-induced issue some of the time. Some people have a jaw structure that just doesn't allow for a lot of oxygen to flow through there, and so
Right.
they need help with that.
But
This-
there's an appliance for that. Though,
Sure,
right?
yeah. CPAPs and BiPAPs are a wonderful thing. They are a great invention. The central apnea crowd has to do with more of a brain signal to breathe. That one is a lot more dangerous, and that would again be something that you would need to see a respiratory specialist about, or a doctor. But let me tell you what, the quickest way to fix your mood is to get good sleep. And the beauty of the CPAP and the BiPAP machines is that all they are oxygen. That's all it is. It's not a pill. It's not anything else that alters the chemistry of your brain. It is simply just getting your body the oxygen that it needs. That's a pretty amazing thing, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Makes sense.
with that being said, for the veteran crowd specifically, they released a 2015 study that said if you have deployed to a combat zone, not even if you're a combat veteran, but if you have deployed to a combat zone and you have severe or higher PTSD symptoms, the more likely you are to have sleep apnea. And not just more likely, but the number was 69.2% more likely to have a sleep apnea problem if you have deployed to 70%, basically 70% more likely. So if we take that theory, then it would stand to reason if someone has lived over there for a year in high chaos and that cortisol chemical is pumping through your brain constantly and that's how you develop apnea, it would stand to reason that someone who has lived in a household of trauma their entire life, domestic violence, been a police officer for 10, 15, 20 years, that they too would also be at risk for that same level of severity with symptoms and the same risk for an apnea that's induced by those symptoms.
You're so smart. That's why we have you in here on Monday mornings. Maybe we'll start all sleeping better. Wouldn't that be good?
Well,
so what's the first step?
So the first step is cut out the bad stuff, okay? The second step is once you've cut out the bad stuff, then talk to your doctor if you're not sleeping well by, I'd say, week 4 or 5. If you've changed habits and you haven't noticed a difference, there might be something more to that.
Now let's recap those. No caffeine after noon, say.
Correct.
Watch the sugars after, maybe early afternoon.
Correct.
Make sure you have no tech in the bedroom.
Correct.
And maybe try to make sure you're not stimulating your brain 30, 40 minutes to an hour before you go to bed. Because if you're watching disturbing news just because you turn it off, you're still going to be thinking.
And that's the other thing. What type of content are you watching before you go to bed? I personally, when I have really challenging days of seeing 6 or 7 people and there's been a lot of trauma, I come home and I try to watch the most non-violent show possible. It's a baking show, it's I Love Lucy, it's something like Seinfeld where nothing is violent, no one gets hurt, and I can kind of sterilize or wash some things out of my brain, so to speak, before I go to bed.
You're such a girl.
I'm such a girl?
Watching these chick flicks, yeah. I want to see things blowing up. No, Seinfeld's good.
Yeah.
But you said non-violent.
Non-violent, non-harmful.
War movies, historical war movies. If I want to go to sleep, I'll watch anything my girlfriend wants to pick out. I promise you.
Well, there you go. There's your answer.
I'll be asleep halfway through.
There's your answer.
I don't even know what happened. She'll say, "Didn't you love that movie last night?" And I'm like, "What
it was
movie
fabulous.
last night?"
Just nod and smile. Just nod and smile. Yes. So nothing violent. If the news is frustrating for you, turn it off. Watch the weather. Go brush your teeth. Wash your face.
What if your partner is frustrating? Go to have a separate sleeping space, maybe?
Gosh, that is a topic for a different show.
Okay,
that is
we'll do that show.
That's so lengthy.
How can someone find out more about what you do? You work with people from trauma to depression to when they've suffered great loss to just sleep disorder. Maybe you're just having a hard time going to sleep at night.
The real kicker about sleep is when we get frustrated, we end up developing belief patterns about ourselves that I cannot control my mind or my body. And that's when people get really frustrated.
And I bet you hear this all the time because I say it and I hear other people saying it. My brain just won't shut off.
Yes, racing thoughts.
Yeah, what do you do?
Perfectly
How do you
normal.
do that?
So one simple suggestion is keep a notepad next to your bedside table. And it's not that you have to make a to-do list, but if something pops in your head that is bothersome or won't go away, go ahead and write it down. That way you can at least externalize it from your brain and get it out there. Okay?
Right. Now it's somewhere else. Mm-hmm. Maybe you're worried that you're going to forget something.
Yes,
Set a reminder on your phone.
No.
I do that all the time.
No, your phone should not be in the bedroom.
No. I'm saying beforehand.
Oh, yes.
As you're doing things,
Yes.
if you, like me, I usually try to remember stuff. So I'm constantly remembering, okay, I have this on Tuesday, I have that on Wednesday, I have that.
Yes.
And I'm usually terrible at the scheduling thing. I
Go
hate
ahead
writing into
and
a calendar.
Go ahead and write it down. Just jot
I'll
the word
go,
down.
Hey Siri, set reminder for Lauren Rich Monday morning at 8 o'clock. All right, see, there you go.
As long as you're not doing that in bed, that's perfectly fine.
I do it, but now I don't have to worry about it. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I do
works.
that more and more, and that's a way we could use our technology earlier
other
in the day
thing
to
is-
unload our brain today.
Yes. The other thing is mindfulness and guided imagery can help slow some of those thoughts down because we all get stressed at night. And It's like a problem during the daytime is, let's say, at an intensity level of a 2. For whatever reason, when it gets dark outside and we can't sleep and we're frustrated at ourselves, it goes from a 2 to a 9. It completely blows up overnight. Okay, it's been magnified because we're not sleeping well. So guided imagery, mindfulness, progressive muscle relaxation, meditation, you can find a lot of those on YouTube that will walk you through the process. Those are really helpful.
A fan.
Oh yeah, by all means. Use as many as you want.
I use a fan. My girlfriend hates
Oh,
the
I
fan.
should say the colder and the darker, the better.
That's the way I
Okay?
like it. But
It needs to be cold and dark.
yeah, to me that's perfect.
Yes.
But the sound of a fan to me and the wind blowing across the bed to me helps me sleep.
Sure.
And if you take that away, I lay there and stare at the ceiling. I just can't help it. What is it about that?
I think for some people it's just ambient noise, which is helpful for some folks. For other people, I really do think it's temperature. I'm a temperature person. It
I
needs
have
to be
tinnitus, too, but-
needs to be cold for me to go to sleep. If I'm hot, it's just not going to happen.
All the concerts, all the years of wearing headphones, I just have constant tinnitus. And when I lay in the really super quiet room, that fan helps offset that.
And
Anyone
that
has
that alone will drive people crazy.
yeah, it will, but
Yes.
no one understands until you're the one sitting there trying to not focus on it, and it's
Yes.
the loudest thing in the room, and there's nothing to offset it.
Correct.
You know?
Yes. So if that helps, by all means, the colder and the darker, the better.
Me too. Big blankets,
Mhm.
hide under there, disappear into the dark.
Yeah,
go to sleep.
and that's the whole purpose, is to basically hibernate for 6 ballpark hours. And the concept or the myth that we have to have 8 hours of sleep is exactly that. It's a myth. If you felt well rested at the 6-hour mark, by all means, just sleep for 6 hours. You don't have to stay in bed the other 2.
Right.
Okay.
It'd be a waste of time. if
Oh,
you're
total
laying
waste of
there.
time. Yeah, and it'd
You're
just be
not
more
really
frustrating.
resting.
That's the other thing, is people will come in and they'll say, well, Doc, I go to bed at 9, I don't get up until 7, and I'm only sleeping 6 of those hours. Well, your awake time in bed is far too long then. Only go to bed when you are absolutely tired. And the worst thing that ever happened to modern day society, the snooze button. Stop using it. It's
I hate it.
confusing. It's confusing. You're confusing your body repeatedly. Why would you want to relive the worst 10 minutes of the day?
Makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. So
That's
stop
funny.
hitting the snooze button.
That's
But
funny.
again, start
True,
out
though.
with behavior changes. If that doesn't get you results, then talk to your doctor about a sleep study, see what's going on, and then at that point, you should consider another alternative like some cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, which has proven to have been a great treatment and very productive for most people that try it.
Well, let's talk about how folks can reach you at
Nine-
Rich Consulting.
Always the same number, 918-912-2266.
It's that easy, and you have resource. You have a Facebook page.
Oh, I do.
They can find you on there,
Yeah,
and
they
they
can
can
find
find you on the internet.
On the interweb, on the
Yeah,
line.
Yeah, you're
Yes.
everywhere. So, Lauren Rich of Rich Consulting.